Okay. So let's move on. So here's a little movie that came out in December of last year. Just it did okay, I guess. Um, and it was an amazing movie. Kyle, you've gone to see this how many times?
77. No, kidding.
I wouldn't doubt it. So that's where
I'm
Cameron's getting all the money.
I've seen it. I think I've seen it, well, really four times in its entirety. I think a fifth time I was going from theater to theater, but it was really four times I
Okay.
watched it.
So four times.
Yes.
So this is and by the way, guys, you can go back and watch our spoiler cast about it. It was unbelievable. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, I saw it in 3D. Unbelievable movie visually. I mean, it look. There's a couple of no brainers here at the Oscars. If this doesn't win visual effects at the Oscars, there needs to be an investigation. Um, but I'm going to read you this article from THR, and this I saw this morning, and it blew me away. So this is behind the screen. This is going to get a little techie and nerdy for those people that like this stuff. So the headline reads: Avatar: The Way of Water team race to create 1,065 delivery versions for theaters. So the Herculean effort to make James Cameron's groundbreaking Avatar: The Way of Water and deliver the movie to theaters around the world for its December 16 day and date release was the subject of a day-long series of panels presentations Tuesday at the HPA, the Hollywood Professionals Association Tech Retreat. A sold out crowd of 750 tech leaders, developers, and suppliers got a look at the unprecedented initiative to deliver the movie to theaters undertaken by Disney, 20th Century Studios, Cameron, and producer John Landau's Lightstorm Entertainment and their suppliers. With digital cinema, theaters vary greatly in their screening capabilities, and Cameron and Landau were bullish about delivering the best possible experience to each individual theater. In the case of Avatar: The Way of Water, this involved the creation of a whopping 1,065 unique delivery versions of the movie.
Wow.
The unheard of number of deliverables include combinations of 2D, 3D, HDR, and 4K. Varying light levels, and aspect ratios, a high frame rate of 48 frames per second, and range of audio formats, 51 languages supported with subtitles, and 28 languages supported by dubbing. For subcontext, the typical Marvel tentpole, take Ant-Man and the Wasp for example, involved roughly 500 deliverables, which is already a very high number. So that essentially means they put out twice as many in that time. Um, which is very unknown. Kim Beresford, VP Integrated Planning and Motion Pictures Operation at Walt Disney Studios, explained that in order to meet the delivery date, the movie was effectively divided into 15 reels, allowing the team to begin creating delivery elements before the 3 hour and 12-minute movie was locked in. Roughly 800 versions of the movie were QC quality controlled in the final 5 days of release. We didn't have to we didn't have the movie together until about 16 days before the release.
Wow.
We moved reel by reel because we couldn't wait, she said. In all, she reported that this meant creating 6,338 portions of DCP, digital cinema packaging, which is the equivalent of a film print. We turned our operation into a 24/7 support model, said the VP, Mark Arrays. And then basically it gets a little more techy and goes on to say, that they wanted a 3D and 48 frames per second um, home release, which they're working on. And then it goes into all the tech stuff about the cameras and everything else that was done. So let me ask you this question: When you hear this, when you hear what they did and how they did it, what is that? I mean, I don't know if you're a big behind the scenes guy, but what does that mean to like getting that out and doing those kind of numbers?
Well, it makes you just really appreciate the work even more, and not just the film that you're watching, but the people that worked on it, because a movie is made up of hundreds, thousands of, people working on the film. And as we've seen, in fact, a article that was released today on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania detailed on the visual effects on that film and how that worked out. You start to see sometimes, or a lot of the times in the case of the VFX industry, their work and the value of those workers gets overlooked. Those workers aren't sometimes what you would expect the focus should be placed on. I mean, you're talking about people that are literally contributing to the way the film looks. And they, like, you have the director, you have the actors, but if they don't get their job done, then the film isn't going to look as good as the director, the producers, anyone wants it to. And I always find it interesting when they announced when they finished the film, and to say that this film was finished 16 days before it was released, which means it was finished, I would assume, either the very last day of November or maybe in December. It was literally finished the month that the movie was released. You're talking about a film that, when people were buying tickets, wasn't finished yet. You're talking about a film that, when they release trailers, these films aren't finished yet. And a lot of times, like, it's movies like this, these big VFX heavy films, that really I just look at and I say to myself, oh my God, how much, work is put into it. That's why, like, I'm not saying that one film is more important than the other, but a lot of the awards consideration, you have to look at Avatar, because the amount of work put into that film is just insane.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just it's one of those things where I mean, I remember seeing it in 3D
Yeah.
and I just went, "Oh my god." I mean, it just pops and just it's one of those things where you go, "This is visual effects. This isn't."
Yes.
I mean, even with motion capture today.
Mhm.
I mean, we're one of the big things, and this is why, I mean, you take a game like The Last of Us, which use, motion capture, and
Yeah.
this is the same thing. And we're not even talking about the underwater scenes. I mean, that in itself is unbelievable. I mean, what he did and how he did it and I mean, I think it was you that told me Kate Winslet holds the record for
Yeah.
being able to hold her breath for 9 minutes.
9 minutes.
I mean, Tom Cruise only did it for 7 and, when he
Mhm.
jumped in the thing. I mean, nothing
And it
to
was
say
the
that's an
same
incredible
guy.
feat.
The same guy that helped Tom Cruise learn how to do that was the same guy that helped Kate learn how to do it. So
Yeah.
you're
I
talking
mean, it's
about,
just
yeah.
this movie, and I know, I mean, we haven't gushed about it in a while, but my God, when you hear these statistics, like
It
they
makes you want to
created
watch it again, doesn't it?
1,065 prints for,
Yeah.
I mean, for 2D, 3D, HDR, 4K, and then the range of audio formats, 51 languages, which is not with subtitles. That's not easy, guys. And 28 supported by dubbing. I mean,
I
that
remember when the first Avatar was released, they actually had an interesting technique where they went into every theater. I don't even know how accurate this was, but they said they went to all the theaters that were showing the film to make sure that their equipment was in check, that their audio system was in check, and that was something that they wanted to make sure that any theater you go to see Avatar, this was back in 2009, any theater you go to, you're getting the best possible experience, audio quality wise, screen wise, and I don't know if they did that for this one, but I mean,
Oh,
they
I'm sure they did, and I'm
they
sure they
yeah.
look, if they QC'd all of the prints and did it that, that way, that they were really, really,
Yes.
really meticulous about everything and cutting it, and they were 10 times as meticulous
And
as they were back in '09.
I want to ask you this question, David,
Go
because
for
I
it.
mean, this is a bit, it's it's related to it, but it interests me because I mean, I guess it's the same thing when it comes to like an Avengers Endgame, Infinity War, but it just seems to me when I'm looking at December releases, it's gotten to a point lately where we're seeing films like a Star Wars: The Force Awakens, Spider-Man: No Way Home, this, where they're releasing these big movies, Aquaman,
And we're
in
not even we'll
December.
do a story about Aquaman and the screenings about that probably another time, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but it's I mean, do you think that like I guess the studios now they realize how much money a movie can make in that time period and they're like, let's release our biggest movie at this time.
Okay. So to answer your question, I think it's this. I think it's the holidays. I think they
Yes.
realize that it's, November and December is the holidays. And so when you're able to get um a Wakanda Forever or a Black Panther or whatever it is, when you're able to do that, okay, and actually make money. Now, grant to truth be told, um, I don't think anybody knew how big, that was going to be. But to your point, take a look at Star Wars: Force Awakens, for example.
Yes.
That was a tentpole movie. It was the first movie that had been released since Revenge of the Sith. Okay, so you're talking about over a 10-year window, and it was brand new
Hmm.
in the grand scheme of things, right? It was not the start. It was not the Skywalker saga. Um, and you couple that with holidays, and you couple that with the buzz, and you couple that with the temp. It's one of those things where, you know, now with an Aquaman, it's a little different, okay? Because Aquaman is, yeah, it's DC and yeah, it's comic book, but it's not one of those
Yeah.
Trinity, if you will, Batman, Superman, or Wonder Woman. And it's, you know, I think people were looking forward to the movie. And so I get what you're saying, and Spider-Man: No Way Home too. I mean, all you got to do is build off. We were talking about Ant-Man earlier. You can only really compare Spider-Man movies from John Watts to one another. It's got to be apples to apples.
Yeah.
You can't take I don't know, some MCU project and compare it to Spider-Man: No Way Home. You just can't. It has to be apples to apples. So let's say we were talking about the drop for Ant-Man earlier. You got to look at the drop of the Ant-Man, the last Ant-Man and the Wasp, to this drop of Ant-Man and
Yes.
the Wasp. So when you say, okay, well, it dropped this much or that much, you go, oh, okay, I understand why. So December, and it's the other thing too. It's right around the corner. It's a brand new year. It's, all this stuff. So I think people they want to not only hit the ground running, it's essentially they want to hit the ground running for next year. That's what it is. They start out big and they end big. So, I mean, so that's why I think, and we've got another couple of big movies coming out in November. I
Yeah.
mean, the Marvels just moved to November. I was reading a piece in the Wrap today. Um, you're gonna have two Disney movies competing against each other. Okay, and this is the third time that this has happened, and they've grossed a lot of money. So that's gonna be fascinating to see. But getting back to Avatar, this is just one of those movies that is just it's a phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal movie. I can understand why this has made so much. And by the way, it's not just overseas, it's here domestic.
Hmm.
This movie's made an insane amount of money here in the States. And the other thing I'll say to your point is this. I think it depends on what else is out, right? If you have nothing else to compete with, then you're going to blow up every day. So you're gonna have a run until, I mean, perfect example of that is, you know, I mean, until you had Avatar: The Way of Water come out in December, everybody was looking forward to February because there was really nothing in January to stop it. And it had legs and it just kept going and going and going and go. I mean, hell, about a month ago, it even went up, what, 6%? How many films do you know go up after the fourth or fifth weekend release? It doesn't happen.
It
It
makes
never
you
happens.
it makes you look at Quantum Mania, and you have to like wonder what's the difference between a Quantum Mania and an Avatar,
Story.
because
Story.
that's a
Hands
good
down,
one. That's
uh, no doubt in my mind. It all starts with the story. Because if you
and
don't
also
have,
the visuals. I would say
right,
the visuals
well, the
too.
visuals, but here's the thing: the visuals were a no brainer. You were
Hmm.
going to see Avatar first and foremost for the visuals. The story was secondary. You wanted to see more of the story, sure, but it was the visuals because the wait had been so long. You're like, this better blow my socks off.
Yeah,
Um, but to your point, if you don't have a story, if you don't have stakes, if it's not compelling, I don't care. And if I don't care, I checked out. Now, I can suspend disbelief to a certain extent, but at some point, I'm going to check out. And if that story's not there, so that's what I would say. And James Cameron, and we've discussed this many times before, he is one of the best storytellers of all
hmm
time. Whether it is a Titanic, whether it is a Terminator 2, whether it is an Aliens, whatever it is, he is one of the best storytellers of all time. So I think that's the difference
and also like
because,
if you look at Ant-Man. Ant-Man also deals with a family, but the thing is, and you hate to say it, but you care more about the family in Avatar than you
yeah,
care about the family in
that's not to say
Quantumania.
Catherine Newton wasn't good. She was okay. But I mean, you go on Twitter now and half that stuff's memes. Whether it's Modoc or, some of the script writing and whatever else, it's like, really? Try not to be a dick? I mean, who thinks it? It's like that scene. One of the greatest scenes, and I still don't know how it actually got filmed. One of the greatest scenes of all time is the end of Venom when he walks into the convenience store and no shit,
I did not,
no
David.
shit.
I did not expect you to say that
And
when you
so he
said.
walks in and he's, chocolate and tater tots and whatever else. And then what ends up happening, she's getting robbed and it's like, the whole line of a fart in the wind. How does that actually get put on film? How? That's what I mean. My point is this. You take a look at that and you take a look at something like Don't Be a Dick and you go, "Oh my god. How does this happen?" And yet because it's Marvel. Because it's Marvel. And that's the only thing I can think of because it's Marvel. And because 5, 6, 7 years ago, we're gonna look back at that scene in this, especially that scene, and we're gonna be laughing about it 5, 6, 7 years from now. Go, they could never write this down. So, anyways, guys, Avatar. It's just an amazing movie. And so I know we kind of got off the course there, but once you hear how they were able to put it together, and they're still putting it together 16 days out, um, just incredible. What did you guys think of? I know I've asked you this before, and I want more of your feedback. What did you think about Avatar: The Way of Water? Did you think that, you know, did you think that do you like it? Obviously, you do because you went back to see it multiple times. But seriously, what do you think about them being able to put it all together like that in the formats, in the dubbing, in the audio? Do you appreciate it more now that you see that on screen? Um, how many times have you guys gone to see Avatar? In what formats? Would you go back and see it again? Leave your thoughts down in the comments.